So for this base, we'll start with the normal 3x2 layout, but with a triangle in the middle, marking out our bunker entrance. The first thing we want to do is wall in all of the sides except for the one with the triangle. The smallest room you can seal the TC is in here by adding a wall and a door on this side. The TC of course goes into the corner, and with a roof on top, it's sealed off. Next, we'll want to solidify the front, which will give us more room to work with for the early game. We'll need 3 doors to do it, and the frames for them go like this. Now we can add a roof on top of everything, except for this one here, which will be our way up later. From the outside, we have our standard 2x3, and don't worry, we will fix that hole very soon. First, we need to come back inside and add in our very first items. We can easily fit the furnaces in here, along with 4 small boxes in this configuration. All that should fit behind the door, and now the sleeping bags go on this side. I'll add in 6 for now, but you could pretty much add as many as you need. None of the placements here are permanent. To get these nice and neat, you can use the lines on the floor as guides. Now that we have all of the basics down, let's go ahead and build up our entrance. Off this triangle here, we'll add 2 raised foundations with 2 low ones in front of them. We want this configuration here, which will make more sense in just a second. Build a half floor here, and then we'll surround the 2 raised foundations with half walls as well. This prevents jackhammer raiding later on. This triangle and these 2 doors will make the path for our new entrance. Let's seal the rest of this with the frame on the end, and now the front is done. On this side we have our elevator, which we can attach to our roof access for the time being. We can do this with 3 frames and walling in this area. For the doors, we'll start with the single at the front and work our way back. That makes 4 doors to TC, and the roof access goes like this. Now we have a fully functioning bunker entrance that we can easily jump into with these steps. At this point, normally I would show you how to add honeycomb and all of that stuff, but I want to take a different approach to this video. I'm going to show you what the finished core looks like so that you have an idea of what to aim for. So let's get rid of all these doors and these sleeping bags. So the only door down here that is armored is the one on the TC. The 2 squares on this side will be our main loot room, so we need a half-height floor through the middle. We also need a garage door on the end. Next, for our elevator over here, we could bring the shelf over like this to get a place to jump up to. So this is the finished layout of the entire core. Now for some doors. We'll be using all garage doors here for the video, but upgrade these as you go on your server. Both of these should face this way. I like to face this one towards the bunker, and then this one away from the jump up. I like to face the one up here the same way as the bottom one. We'll expand soon, but these are the final upgrades you'll be looking to get. The outside walls of the elevator need to be HQM to stop raiders from getting lucky and shortcutting. Going further in, you can see we have our core done. 8 sleeping bags fitting tightly here like this, and our finished TC room is very easy to build. Our level 3 goes here. Now real quick, the level 1 will go here first in the early wipe, but I know what you're thinking. What about the level 2? You're skipping the level 2! No, I'm not, don't worry, it goes on the 2nd floor, which you will see very soon. The bunker I have left undone on purpose because I want to show you how to finish it. The 2 raised foundations need to be HQM since they basically count as a wall here. We upgrade all of the pieces around it to sheet metal to cover the soft sides of the high foundations. To prevent jackhammer raiding fully, we need to come up here and build a couple of things first. We want to place 2 half walls on the inside here and upgrade them right to sheet metal. Now you can see that the soft sides are no longer visible or exposed. For the actual top here, we'll be adding in a triangle hatch. The frame can be left as stone, but face the hatch this way when it opens. You can easily seal this by placing your twig half wall like this and spamming a triangle floor while crouch jumping. Upgrade it to HQM and the bunker is fully sealed. Now to open it, any of your team can spawn on any of these bags here and simply hit this with anything. This should be made out of twig by the way, it's stone in the video since I have automatic upgrading on. So this is the core completely finished. From the outside, we can see how the core looks in its final state without any honeycomb or anything else, something nobody should ever see. Now, to be completely clear, this is for demonstration purposes only. Your base should never be upgraded like this in this order. The next step will be to add sheet metal honeycomb around both sides of the base. It's important to include the tucked away triangle here and the same one on this side. These add protection to the raised foundations that equal the rest of the core. Same as this side, we need to build up the honeycomb on the front of the foundations too. Upgrade this left one, and this build up on the right we did earlier is pretty much already finished. The reasoning for this is now you can see we have a 23 rocket protection cost to the entire 2x3 core, and even for our raised foundations. If we take a close look at the front, you can see there are now sheet metal walls on all sides of both foundations. We have to do a little bit of work on the front here and expand our entrance a little. This side will be our new entrance. It can be stone. Eventually this will be an armored door, but for now a sheet door works just fine. You can also fit 2 traps up here to stop the deepage. If you find yourself having trouble out here with this high jump, simply add a twig triangle right here. You could upgrade it to wood, but keep in mind it will have to be destroyed when we build the external TCs. So as it stands, horizontally, this is 23 rockets to TC minimum. However, as you can see, choosing the wrong walls will result in higher raid costs. Now none of this actually matters unless we add a second floor, so the next step will be to go onto the roof and do just that. If we come around the right side here, we want to add a sheet metal wall into this gap. We can use stone now, and we want to basically close the entire second floor by bordering the outside of all of the triangles. Once it looks like this, we can then fill it in with the sheet metal inside. We want to skip this one here. We want to skip the one across from this door. This will be our way up. Now using sheet metal once again, we can fill in the rest of the ceiling. On our roof, we want to top off all of the honeycomb with sheet metal. We can also upgrade all of the existing roof. The final base will need this one to be HQM. We'll build up this open triangle into our new roof access. A garage door works perfect here. Coming back inside, we need to add a frame on this side and then over here. Similar to our first floor, we need a loot room shelf through the middle. We can start placing garage doors, which should all face the same way as shown here. We can also replace all of the sheet metal double doors. The final door that leads in from our entrance will be the only one with an armored door. The second floor, when complete, should have the level 2 on the jump up with boxes above it. Sleeping bags should be on every floor. Our furnace room is here on the right. 9 of them can fit in here without being visible through the door. Our loot room is of course behind these 2 doors. This loot room has 90 rows of storage and is easily accessible by up to 5 people at a time. For the video, I've upgraded the 2x3 of squares into HQM, but you can of course do this at your own pace as the wipe progresses. If we have a quick fly around, you can now see what we are working with, a pretty solid and well optimized design. The next thing to do will be to start adding in our external TCs and building them into peak downs. Future Gaming here, and I forgot to add this piece of honeycomb. All you have to do to fix this is come out the roof door and build 2 stone walls with a metal top, just so that it matches the rest of the honeycomb. Now let's mark out our external TCs. Starting at the front, we could use this single triangle gap to build out to a square. We'll use the square to measure the distance out to our external TCs. There's only one slight problem with this. Only 2 of the adjacent sides have this one triangle gap. The back does not though. Don't worry, this is an easy fix. We'll simply add these 4 triangles, which in turn gives us that single triangle gap, which we could then use to build out to the square. That once again is what we'll use to measure out the TC distance. Whew, that was a mouthful. So the first external TC we'll place will be the one on the side with the entrance. Facing away from the base, we add one more square here and break the buildup behind us. Then we build out 6 more twig squares, add a stone triangle onto the 7th, which will house our TC. We'll add more to these later, but functionality is the first goal. We can break the twig now since it's done its job. Now starting with a triangle facing the base, we want to build back in these half moon shapes. When we get to the end here, we want a square. What we've done here is move this square just far enough away from the main base to have separate TC privilege. Now it just comes down to repeating this for the remaining sides. The first 2 sides go on exactly the same as the first, but the back one is slightly different. We have the same square to build out from, but we want to get rid of all this too. From this square, we want to build out 7 squares with the stone triangle on the 8th spot. The TC is basically the same distance away, we just count they're different. When we build back with half moons this time though, we want to stop a bit further away from the base. This is because we did extra build up to get the first square into the correct position earlier. The big difference here is the back one has way more room between the base and the stone foundation. With the external set, we can now start building the 4 arms out around our base's core. The first step is very simple. If you look at the base, you want a triangle on each side of the square. This goes for all of the sides. Now your base should look like this. 2 are done now and 2 have to be expanded. The arm at the front door needs to be expanded a square and 2 triangles. Break both of these, this gives you a triangle that is still connected. Let's repeat that for the other side now. Next, we simply add a triangle to each side. Finish each side with a square. If done correctly, you will now have this small gap in between both foundations. To finish the footprint, all we have to do is repeat what we just did there on this backside TC. Once again, I just like to check that the gaps are where they should be. All should be well. Here is an aerial view of the footprint. Actually, here's a better one. We need to upgrade some of these foundations, and here is why. If you imagine 2 stone walls on every foundation, this would cost 8 rockets to get through. But however, this also makes the 4 rocket stone foundations very weak in comparison. Upgrade the following foundations to sheet metal. Some will be left stone. Now try to imagine where the stone walls will go above each one of the foundations and you'll understand why. You can actually use this same logic to eventually have 2 sheet metal walls with HQM foundations, but that is a little bit more expensive than I'm willing to go in this video. Oh, they are going in on that piano right now. We're going to have 2 entrances through the honeycomb, and the first one will be on the same side as the front door. We'll want to build the following frames in this order. We can fill the last 3 spots with walls. The one closest to the base should have the hard side this way. An armored double door goes here, and we have our first entrance completed. Now since this base is symmetric, we can literally copy this on the opposite side. Now we'll want to start enclosing the rest. So on each side of each entrance, we'll build a bedroom. The door goes next to the other door and we can enclose the rest. Remember to do this on both sides. Now that we've built all 4 of our bedrooms, we can finish the honeycomb on the last 2 TCs. These are very easy. These are slightly different. We want to place the door frames both facing the inner walkway. The rest can get walled in since there's no entrance here. That is one side complete. We can actually run through here now to get to the other side where we'll repeat that. When we look at this from above, you can see that the entire first floor shell is now solid. Now you want all the doors to face the same way as here. When all the doors are filled in, it will look like this. First we have the entrance with a bedroom on each side. There are 2 beds and 2 lockers per room. Because it's symmetric, we have the same entrance and 2 bedrooms on the opposite side here. Each of the other sides is pretty much empty, but you can add whatever you need into these rooms. So now let's start expanding the honeycomb upwards. We'll start here at the roof entrance. We'll jump off any side and start covering everything with stone floors. Once you're back at the beginning, the next step is to bring the border up 1 more full level, all with stone. The base should look like this now. Sorry if the aerial views are too many. I'm just trying to make it as visual and easy to follow as possible. Next, we want to make sure that we do our gaps right. So where the gaps are, if you place the walls this way, there will be a huge slit that people can see through. So facing them the other way like this, you get that new corner texture which blocks the vision. We want to make sure we do this for each of the 4 gaps. The next walls we'll put in are the ones closest to the base near the triangle honeycomb. You want the hard side to face away from the core so that if raiders come in, they will see this. Once again, this should be done for all 4 sides. It isn't as important to do this on the 2nd floor as much as it is for the 1st, but it is still worth in my opinion. This last one is a bit tricky to reach, so what we can do is build a triangle out on each side of the door like this. Come out 1 further on each side. This will be used for something later, but for now it helps us reach the wall. From the roof once again, we can add in all of the remaining walls. It doesn't really matter which way they face, but I prefer the ones I did in the video. The ones on the backside are pretty tough to reach. If you find yourself falling in like me, this noob, it's fine, just continue like this. Now it's really starting to take shape, and soon we'll be able to work on our inner peak downs. But first, the final step here is to come back to the roof and top it all off. And there we go, a fully honeycombed 3x2 with a 5TC footprint. Both our inner and outer peak downs will go on this floor, so that's what we'll do next. Now let's build our outer peaks and then we can build our inner peaks. With our back towards the door and facing this external TC, we can build this out piece by piece. First a triangle right in the middle and then one on each side. Build both sides in one triangle towards the TC. One triangle goes on each of these sides. All of the triangles should point towards the TC. We'll do the same thing on the opposite side using this TC as the reference. If we have a side view, you can see how simple it actually is. The remaining two sides are slightly different. We'll build the first 5 triangles the same, but we'll skip the last 2. Same thing on the other side. We only have a couple of more to finish the layout. If you're looking at what we just builded in, you'll see a square on each side. Come to that square and looking at the TC, build one square out towards it and then 2 triangles away from it. We'll do the same thing over here on the other square. Please double check that this gap is in this exact position, square on the square side and triangle on the triangle side. That is 1/2 done, and once again we simply repeat for the other side. Outer peaks are done and the inner peaks are even easier. On the roof there are 4 spaces for squares that are kinda tucked into each corner here. You want the gap to be here after you build. Do this for all 4 of the sides. For a reference point, this is the front of the base with the bunker entrance. We want to add all of the following triangles. These will be our main inner peak downs for online raid defense. As you can see from above, everything is symmetric and well split between TCs. The final triangle on each side goes here and should attach to the outer TC on its side. Beautiful. And that is the full layout of our top floor. You should upgrade it right to stone, but I will leave a twig for the video to give you constant reference points as we build the rest of the floor. Coming out of the top door, we can start on this side where we add these wall frames. This is our way out and there is one on each side, so we'll build the same thing over on this side. Now we'll start adding the sheet metal walls, which will separate our core from the outer peak downs. On the side of the exit, we place a wall here, which should put the gap between the frame and the wall. Same thing for the other side, and then for the other exit too. Next, we want to wall off our inner peaks from the outside with some sheet metal walls. You can kinda see how the pathing works now. For the garage doors, we'll place 5 onto each side. This basically gives the raider an option between 3 garage doors or a sheet metal wall to enter. We also want a sheet metal wall on each side. Repeat on this side. So I need some feedback. You'll notice the way I'm building this floor is tailored by the symmetry itself. So basically I'll do one side and repeat it for the other and then end with an aerial view. My question is this a comprehensive way to demonstrate a complex building sequence for you all? Please let me know in the comments below. Now before we can put the ceiling on, we actually need to build up this section in the middle. Basically a 2x1 extension with a garage door on the end. This will double as our way up. Now we're ready for the roof. We'll quickly put a hatch here and go on up. We'll build out 3 triangles on each side like this. The next square, you want it to be attached to the top of the garage door, not the floor below you. Now we can fill in the top of the door paths. You can start on either side. We want to add 2 triangles and have the gap like this. It's very important these gaps look exactly like this. Now we can build in the other sides, which is even simpler. When you place these 2 triangles, you want to make sure that they attach to the external TC and not the core. We want to keep the upkeep cost down as much as we can. After the side is complete, the gap should extend all the way like this. Now for our external peaks. We'll use this triangle hatch as our reference point. We'll jump off the front side and we're going to add in the door frames. Basically, wherever there is a gap like this, we want a door frame right before it. We don't want a door facing out because that makes no sense. Pretty much walk around now and fill in all of those. By the way, this is actually directional. Make sure you're walking around towards the left when you place them, not the right. There should be a total of 12. We'll start at the same place and now we want to add window frames around the outside. Place them wherever they fit. Some places will have more than others. If you do this correctly, all of the gaps should line up naturally. To cover these up, the easiest way is to add all of the squares first. So once again, at our trusted hatch, we'll face this way and add the first one here. If you look to the left and right, you'll notice that there is space for 2 squares on each side, so fill them both in. And you guessed right, we could do the same thing over on the other side. The rest of this roof can be filled in by simply matching the floor underneath it. You can do this all with stone. This final part, I just want to show you that the gaps should line up the same as the floor beneath as well. Very simple, but very important. At this point, I would double check that the roof looks exactly like this one. Our roof is done now, but we need to add a way up. We'll build around this hatch and put a frame across it on this side. Wall in both of the sides and then we could put a roof on. We'll need one more frame here, and then we can fill them both with garage doors. This is an excellent place to store your helis. One last thing we can do up here is cover up these gaps just a little bit. We'll use stone low walls and just follow the gaps with them. This doesn't hide them completely, but it does take away about 80% of the useful angles that raiders can use against you. The structure of our base is done now, but there are still many things to add inside, so let's finish this up. On the front door here, you can put a floor and jump up from the door, but I like to put a box here to leave the space open a bit more. It's time to replace our sheet metal doors with armored ones. If we come further in, we'll want to break this one and add 2 garage doors. This frame has to be built first. I face both of the doors in towards the core. Now if we run to our 3rd floor into the 1x2, we can add these doors to the front path. And after that, this final room, we need to upgrade the following pieces to HQM. This is so that if raiders actually come through the roof, they will not be able to shortcut. This is also to stop shortcuts through the outer peaks if they decide to raid through those. Speaking of the outer peak downs, it's time we add in our sheet metal doors to seal off this floor. We want to place them so they swing out and to the right. There will be a total of 12 that need to be placed. Next, we want to place the windows in all of the window slots, a total of 24 here. With all of that done in the outer peaks, they are secured now and much harder to get into. If you come around to the base of the core, there is all this extra space. The best thing to use this for is 2 oil refineries. They fit right into these triangles. The 3rd floor has many uses. You can put some beds up here, maybe even a cloth farm. I would be horrible at explaining farms though, so I'll leave that to your imagination. The final thing for this base is adding on to these TCs and giving them extra utility. Once again, there are many cool things you can add to these. What I'll do for these is a very simple variant. I will make it 7 rockets to raid and give you space for a turret that has good coverage and whatever else you may want to add here. After this, the base is done. There are of course many things you can add. If you made it this far into the video, leave me a champ comment down below, because you are a champ, my friend. This video is so much longer than I thought it would be, but I think I covered everything I wanted to. So thank you once again for watching. See ya!